Hi, I'm Shayna.
And I'm Tracey, and we are the creators of The Pump Dump Show. We are moms, but we were women first. And in this podcast, we explore what it's like to be a woman who also happens to be a mom.
Before we were moms, we were women. Before we were moms, we were chilling. Now we're pumping and dumping. We're talking about something. This is the Band of Mothers podcast. Band of Mothers.
Welcome to the Band of Mothers podcast.
This is a Band of Mothers podcast.
Band of Mothers podcast.
So, as you can tell, we've changed our name.
New year, new decade. Band of Mothers.
Band of Mothers. I mean, we just so often talk about the app and talk about the brand and our amazing Band of Mothers that we meet by doing the Pump and Dump show. So,
And our mission of a Band of Mothers.
Yeah. So, it was time to level up.
Band of Mothers.
And change the name of the podcast, y'all.
Are you guys happy about it? Do you care? Maybe no one
I mean,
cares.
I can't imagine whoever's mad about it really shouldn't be mad about it, right?
Okay, mad. Are you shocked? Amazed? It doesn't matter. Band of Mothers. It's easy to remember. BOM. B-O-M.
This is the bomb. Happy 2020.
We are finally back. I would like to say we were on vacation, but we just weren't. We were actually so busy.
We were. I did take a
You did.
little vacation over Christmas, and then got back, hit it hard right on the January 1.
Yeah, we've literally been working. So we just got back from New York, where we did a show, kind of a last minute impromptu special showcase show that was so fun. But that was my Christmas break. I did not take any vacation, nor have I in well over a year.
And if you watched any of our Insta stories, you could see the room we stayed in with the 2 toddler beds.
It was so glamorous. My mom, I was talking to my mom, of course, watches all of our social, and she was like, I saw that room and my heart just sunk. There's no way I could have slept in that room. I just was so sad every time you guys put up a story. It wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad because it was clean.
It was clean.
So look, if you're traveling to New York by yourself, I think, and you'd have to share a room with someone, and you just need a room because you're not going to spend a lot of time in that room, Ridge Hotel all the way.
I gotta tell you, I didn't even mind sharing it with you because it was clean and the location was great. It was my biggest beef is that they had central heat. You couldn't control your own thermostat in the room. And so we laid on our toddler beds, and the beds were not comfortable. It was like army issue grade mattress. Like the mattress was so thin that the bed sheets didn't even fit on the mattress.
So they got all like wrinkly up underneath your body.
And it was so unbelievably hot. And it's not like you can sleep with the windows open in New York because it's so loud.
Yeah.
So like I just laid there sweating all night, just dripping sweat. Like it was so hot.
It was a little rough.
But we did it. It was super fun. We had a great time. Met lots of great people.
Yeah, the show was great.
And now we're back. We're finally back for our weekly podcast.
And we thought one of the fun things to do for this podcast, as well as catch you up on all of our adventures and our cast's adventures, etc., is maybe share some of our favorite things that we're kind of into each week, because we've gotten a lot of comments from our Band of Mothers about certain things that we mention or certain things that we do. Did you guys know that Tracey has a Peloton?
Did you guys know I got a Peloton?
So there's certain things that we do talk about, not because people are paying us, but because we want to share information, because that's part of our mission.
Well,
so,
and I mean, if there's one thing that moms love is to tell each other what works and what doesn't, and what helps them and what makes them happy. Like that's, we live for that as women. So
right. So we have a couple of things we wanted to mention, and I'm sure I'm gonna guess a percentage of you that may have received one of these for Christmas. Like 68. I'm gonna say 68% of our Band of Mothers got air fryers.
Yeah.
2 words for you guys: French fries.
I mean, how do you have an air fryer and I don't?
I
gotta get one.
You will. Well, because my husband is a very kitchen gadgety focused person.
Yeah.
I mean, we have the sous vide, we have Instant Pot, now we have the air fryer.
But you guys are loving it. She just made me toast in the air fryer.
Well, yeah, we just got rid of it because it takes up a lot of space on your counter. So we got rid of our toaster oven. So now I don't love that I have to use it as a toaster. I also have an oven I could use, but who has that kind of time?
That's so Amish of you.
Yeah. Anyway, air fryer. I'm a fan. I think a lot of, I mean, basically we got it because people were posting pictures of French fries on Insta.
Sure. Well, I mean, my friends have it too, and I've heard crispy broccoli, which is a huge
Mm-hmm.
thing in our home, and I constantly battling with my oven to try to get the broccoli to the crispness that the 9-year-old requires.
Air fryer.
Air fryer, whole chickens,
Oh, yeah.
wontons. I've heard frozen egg rolls.
Yeah.
All of it.
Do it.
Fry it. Air fry it.
What else do we got?
Oh my gosh. So you guys know how many perfect bars we eat. And I have to admit, we eat so many perfect bars on the road that I have not been able to eat perfect bars for quite a few months. Shay is still going strong. That's your morning.
We eat so many perfect bars on the road that my coat has chocolate stains because I'm constantly dropping it on myself.
No, they are delicious. I am, as you guys know, more of a savory person than a sweet person as a rule. So I would prefer my leftovers with an egg on top any day over a perfect bar. But they just came out with a new flavor. And if you guys have tried them, sorry, perfect bar, but nothing compares to the peanut butter dark chocolate chip. Like that is for sure everyone in the planet's favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But they came out with these perfect bars. They're called snacks. So it's like 2 circles, and it's if you look for it in the store, I've only seen it at Whole Foods so far. Sprouts doesn't carry them yet, but it's called dark chocolate with sea salt. So it's the same peanut butter-ish thing in the middle, and then it's coated with this like really thin layer of dark chocolate, and it's got sea salt on the top, and there's 2 circles of it, and they are heavenly. And it's not as much. I can't even finish a perfect bar anymore. Like it's too big. And this is like 210 calories, and they're real good.
Okay.
So
good to know. I haven't tried that one yet, but
I'll share mine with you
because I still can finish a perfect bar.
Oh, I can't do it. So I'm loving that. Also, it's Sumo Orange season. I always like get sad about January, and then I'm like, oh, Sumo Oranges. You don't eat Sumo Oranges like I do.
I only like little tiny oranges.
Well, Sumo Oranges are like the little tiny, but bigger and better.
I think you've made me eat one before.
Oh yeah, you don't really.
I'm
care.
anti-pulp.
Oh, pulp. Then they're still satisfying to peel because they got that little nubbin on the top.
Oh yeah,
And you just kind of break it open, and then the skin comes
off.
off.
I'm satisfied just hearing you talk about it.
So yeah, but they're so expensive, so I try not to buy too many. But I've already had like 3 since yesterday.
Oh, it's a lot of vitamin C.
Well, it's winter. Your body needs it.
That's true.
What else?
Finally started watching Schitt's Creek. Tracy's been telling me to watch it forever.
I'd like to say I'm an early adopter. It's one badge of honor I wear proudly.
That you were into it when it first came out.
I was like telling people about it, and everyone was like looking at me like I was crazy.
I think it took a couple episodes to get into it. So if you've started and you're like, I don't see what all the fuss is about, keep going, because I think the more you get to know the characters.
Well, they do, like any show, they settle into their characters.
Yeah, and then you think everything they do is funny because you know them more, and it's really it's fun. It's great because I love short TV. Like when we put the kids to bed, it's like a quickie, and then a quickie. Just jokes. And so yeah, we've been watching it, and it's been delightful. So that's
so
kind
good.
of a fun thing if you haven't done yet. That
Creek.
We would both highly recommend. But if you don't watch Fleabag, I am going to start getting mad, Tracy.
I know you are. I know. I don't know. Yes. Okay, fine. I will. What else do I love right now? Oh, I got the best new sleep mask.
This creeps me out actually when you talk about it.
Why?
Well, because the thing that you were saying about it is that you can blink your eyes behind it. I don't know why. And then you say you open your eyes, you don't know where you are.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of people
like eye holes.
It is like a lot of people don't like sleep masks because it's like pressure on your eyes, which I actually do like the pressure.
I don't like it.
So this is it's by Blue Blocks, BLUBLOX. We'll link it. And it's got these like pods, these iPods that are raised off your face, so you can totally blink your eyes, but they guarantee like total coverage. So there's no light that like seeps in around the edges. and it's super comfortable, and it's on the iPods are like adjustable. That's on like a Velcro strip, so like you can move them in and out according to your nose or the shape of your eyes. You can kind of adjust them to be exactly right. And yeah, I've woken up and it's so dark, but you can open your eyes in pitch black that you don't know where you are because it's pitch black.
Do you remember that
for
movie?
an insomniac like me, it's delicious.
Open your eyes.
No, what is it?
It's the one with Tom Cruise and
Cameron Diaz.
and
Vanilla
Penelope
Sky.
Cruz. Yeah. Open your eyes.
She bothers me. So I'm liking my sleep mask. You'll never try it.
And
even my husband likes it.
I don't know why it took me to age 42 to do anything to my eyebrows, but I'm feeling it's like I'm suddenly self-conscious about this whole, eyebrow trend, and I'm doing eyebrows like every day, but you got a gel that you like.
Yeah. Yeah, I was using,
And by every day, I mean not every
when we
day.
do shows. So like now once every
when
6
I leave
months.
my house.
Yeah, I do like doing my eyes. Yeah, we used to use, or you never got the Tarte one.
Mm-mm.
I was using Tarte, but then I got the Beauty Counter eyebrow gel, and like it's another little nubbin. Like the the brush is like really round and fat, and so when you brush it on your eyebrows, it like grips your eyebrows, and it just feels like it's like getting in there. I mean, you heard me. I was like, oh, I love this eyebrow brush. Never thought I'd be so excited.
Well, of course I heard you because I was standing 1 foot from you in the bathroom.
You're actually kneeling down underneath me,
Probably.
Sherry. So Beauty Counter eyebrow gel, I highly recommend if you guys need something for those boy brows that all the
This
young
is what
ones.
I'm saying. Yeah, it's kind of like fun to have big old brows now.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's like a good little roundup of
some
fun.
favorite things we're into.
That's a little Band of Mothers info for you.
Yeah. And looking forward to our new cast like hitting the road again in February. And wouldn't you know it, our first 3 shows are already sold out. Dayton,
Whoop, whoop.
Toledo, and Cleveland are done. D-U-N done. They sold out literally in days. And
I mean, Ohio, first of all.
I mean,
Ohio
Ohio-
moms are the flipping best.
yeah, I mean, and P.S. Columbus, which I don't even think is until March, is like 2 seconds from selling out. So if you're hearing this, you better buy your ticket because it's probably sold out. Ohio.
we love you.
Ohio.
We've always loved Ohio.
We have. So those first 3 shows are sold out. Irvine is in
It's getting close.
is about to sell out. Like you guys, the tickets are just selling real fast. So we have 34 shows. I think I just counted this morning.
Go to our site. You'll see it on the pumpanddumpshow.com.
Or our app in events.
Yes. So if you haven't signed up for the Bomb app yet, Band of Mothers app, you can get it in the iTunes Store or Google Play for Android or iOS. And again, it's still in beta and we've only really told you guys about it. So at some point, we'll be actually marketing that sucker. We're just still getting out kinks so we could use all the moms we could get so we can figure out
get
what
on
the
there.
kinks
There's
are.
some great conversations happening. Molly from our Midwest cast is in desperate search of an eye cream that gets rid of her puffy eyes.
Mhm.
That's in the beauty and wellness group. I'm trying to think what else is happening.
Our friend Amanda Testa, who was a guest on this show 2 different times, has her own group called Finding Your Feminine Fire, where she's always, part of conversations about finding your feminine fire and just like getting back to the sexy time after you become a mom. So that's a really fun group on there.
In raising toddlers, there's a mama that's trying to, like, her kiddo has a ton of ear infections and she's trying to decide if she's going to put tubes in her ears. And I've been down that road. So she needs some encouragement, some feedback. The recipes and food group is always great. Everyone's always looking for Instapot recipes and now air fryer hacks.
I know. And if you're in my house, Whole30.
Yeah, Whole30 for Shay. So download the app and you can, and the fun thing is that you can access this podcast from the app directly and you can access all of our shows right from the app too. So you can just be Band of Mothers all day long.
So today's episode, we're really going to focus on 2020 and kind of a little bit of reflection of 2019. Our guests today are us. We figured we were gone for so many weeks that maybe you missed us. Did you miss us? Like just a little?
We missed us.
Yeah.
Not us, because we weren't really separated.
I didn't miss you. You were right next to me
Yeah,
in the bed.
literally
The-
holding hands in bed.
The beds were one hand width apart from each other.
Like so
The
close
toddler
together,
bed.
you can't walk in the middle of them. Like I dropped something and I was like, shit, how am I going to get down there and get it back from in
New York
between the
City.
beds? I know. Yeah, so little 2020, little New Year's reflection and looking forward, and we're happy to be back. So it's 2020. It's still January. I love January. I get so reflective and I love reflecting back on the past. I think it's like such a great exercise, and it's good for me because I feel like I have short-term memory sometimes. So it's good to think back on the whole year and all the things that happened in that year. Because a lot happens in a year, even though it goes by so fast.
So fast.
So fast. So we just thought we would have a little chit chat, just the two of us, and reflect since we spent.
We don't spend enough time together.
Well, and basically between you and my husband and my kid, that's basically who I spent 2019 with. So I should probably reflect back with you. And so we wrote down some questions to sort of ask each other, and you know how we like to pull questions from a bowl about the past year and the years to come. And so we just thought we'd have a little New Year's chat.
A mid-January New Year's. I know I'm still contemplating whether I can send New Year's cards because I didn't get to do Christmas cards this year. And I'm like, if you get them like by February, can you still send a card that says Happy New Year?
Well, there's still the Lunar New Year and the Chinese New Year. I don't know if those are the same things. Those are happening soon. So sure.
How, they are?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Chinese New Year's coming up, I think. And so is like the Lunar New Year, which that might be the same thing, or it may be different. It might be like on the Mayan calendar. I don't know.
The Lunar New Year. Do you know what does that mean?
I don't know. To be honest, if I'm really honest, I saw it pass through my Facebook or my Instagram feed and I was like, "Oh, Lunar New Year." I'm into moons. And that's actually all I know about it. I could be completely wrong. It could have said lunar beer for all I know, and I just read it wrong. So.
Okay, got it.
But there is a Chinese New Year for sure, in which case I can say, send your New Year's cards.
Very appropriate for me then to send my New Year's cards for the Chinese New Year.
Well, it's a new year to someone.
Yeah, I just didn't get to them. I feel bad.
I feel bad too. I haven't gotten to them in a decade.
Oh, but I have done them every year.
I
and now I
know.
feel like people are like, "Oh, are we off of her list?" Do you know what I mean?
There is that. I am always surprised that I even get any because I just never send them.
Oh, I still have mine up. It's the only thing that I
No,
still
it's
have.
so
I
great.
love it up.
It's so great.
All right.
It's so fun because Evie, like every day, she's like, "Who sent us cards?" Like she loves to see.
I know, it's super
Who
fun.
is that? Where? Tell me about your. That's your friend from where? And like,
I love them.
I know I love them too. Someday I'll send it. Probably not.
Well, if you're listening and I was supposed to send you a card, know that I still love you.
And if you're listening and I love you, I love you. You're never getting a card.
Well, this is a episode about apologies.
Really, we're really evolving. We're still really guilty
2020,
about everything.
Just lots of guilt.
Oh my gosh.
All right, here we go.
All right, first question. Describe this past decade. Since it's 2020, we just came into a new decade. Describe this past decade and what you see for this new decade.
Can I also just tell you about the debate I've been seeing on Facebook where this is not the new decade yet?
No, I have no tolerance for that
Okay.
shit. Life is hard enough. Can we just let it be a new fucking decade? Okay.
I'm just
Thank you.
saying. There might be people who are like, but it's not.
You know what? If you do, I respect it. Please shut up. I can't deal with it. There's too
Okay.
much to worry about in the world.
All right. What was the question?
Sum up your last decade. I wrote this question, guys. This came because a friend of mine was over at our house on New Year's Day and she was just like, she's kind of bummed out. And she was like, well, I know like this last decade, I was like me, I had kids and then I couldn't have any more kids. And like, it was very clear what this last decade was. And she just didn't have a clear vision about what this new decade was going to be. And it was a little overwhelming for her. I thought that was interesting because like, I think, can we bundle up the last 10 years? I mean, I can.
All right, go for it.
Well, trying to have kids, having one kid, settling into my career, truly, to a business that sticks in like watching that evolve, and exiting my 30s and navigating my early 40s as a woman.
Okay.
So it was, the first half of that decade was trying to get pregnant, and then finally getting pregnant, and then just becoming a mom. That was probably that's the biggest part. But and then actually settling into a career, like owning this business, running this business, and really the only word I can think of is like settling into it, and like really growing it. Wasn't like a 2-year project,
Mm-hmm.
and I think there's a big difference about being in your 30s and being in your 40s. I feel like I'm so different even from when I turned 40.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just think your mindset shifts. So I think that's kind of how it was very evolutionary. Like, it was a lot of like metamorphosis for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, for sure. In 2010, right, we were just having our daughters. And then with that came a huge move and kind of the end of a life into a new life. And I feel like it's almost taken this whole decade to get my bearings on the new life, right? So it's like letting go of being a comic in New York and an actress in New York and kind of like always following this one dream and kind of making it not about me anymore, right? And making a decision to like move from New York back to Colorado, have a second kid, bought a house, figure out career, navigate those first 5 years of the kids, which was, I don't even fucking remember
Yeah.
so much of it. And then just in this last couple years, actually try to learn a little bit more about myself.
Yeah.
Which I guess I thought I'd done, but I don't think I had done.
Well, I think you did do, and then you got to do it again. I don't think it's like a one-time thing. I don't think it's like, oh, I did some self-help work, or I saw a shrink for a year, 10 years ago, so I'm good. I just don't think the human psyche works like that. I think we're constantly, life happens and that affects you in so many ways.
Right.
But I don't think I don't think I've ever done any sort of like, I've gone through dark periods in my life, and I've seen like, a psychologist here and there,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think I've ever been particularly introspective about who I truly am and like my belief system. And
Like in the last couple years.
yeah,
Oh, maybe that does come with turning 40.
did with me.
I wish it had come earlier for sure.
Agree.
But again, like, we were drowning in new motherhood. So like most of you listening to this podcast, like it's okay. There will be a time where your head will come above water.
Well, and I think it's just, it's interesting. Everyone, like, now that we're so woo, like I listen to these podcasts and I read the books, and like there's this general like feeling in the spiritual community that like we're in this very massive spiritual awakening right now as a human race, and that like a lot of people are kind of like waking up and stepping away from like traditional dogma and really trying to figure out how to be a better person, how to live peacefully, how to evolve, what is the universe, what is the source or God or any of those things. And like a lot of young people are just way more, to use the term, woke than we were in our 20s.
But
like,
don't you think that's because of mental health awareness? Because we've really, as a society, had to put some emphasis on that finally.
well, sure. But that, yeah, I mean, sure. So there's this evolution where I think, when I was in my 20s, like I wasn't, like I just don't feel like I was that introspective. I was just, and that was 2 decades ago, but
Well,
like
because you were probably supremely confident and just kind of
clueless.
fine with being broke, all the things that we were in our 20s, right? It was like, oh my God, I have $200. I'm rich.
I know. Let's go out to dinner for
let's
sure.
go spend the
Let's
day in the
not-
park and
let's
smoke
not-
weed all
yeah.
day.
Let's not save this for rent.
Yeah.
But I wasn't, but I was married, and I wasn't trying to be a better wife particularly. I wasn't looking at myself and saying, am I happy? Like those big questions that, you and I have been asking ourselves certainly for the last year or half a year. But I just feel like there's just a general, like, people. I read this interesting article that said that the old midlife crisis was to buy a Ferrari, go to Vegas, get a divorce, marry someone younger, or get a bunch of plastic surgery. And now the new midlife is like you go to Sedona for 2 weeks, or you go do ayahuasca in Peru,
Right.
or go to a yoga retreat in Bali. It's much more spiritually based.
And then get some plastic surgery.
And then get some plastic surgery, but only because you want to, for self-love.
True.
Anyway, so
Yeah. Well, I hope that's true. I mean, I'm not skeptical. I wonder, because I'm not 20 anymore, if they're, if we're just there and they're still where we were.
no,
I
I
don't
think a lot of kids are
know. God, we're very old. We're just called
we are
20
so-
something.
well, they are. But I wish that I had tools I wish I had tools like that when I had Evie. I wish I had something to fall back on.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had the wherewithal to ask those questions. I mean, there's so many, this last decade was a decade where I didn't journal, and I'm a writer.
Mm-hmm.
I've written my whole life, and I let all that go. And I think that's like survival mode, new mom. I was
Right.
it was like deep. I hate this term, but like deep adulting was
Mhm.
this last decade. It was just like taking care of the house, raising the kids, working, just trying to be a adult. But then I kind of I forgot a bunch of myself.
Yeah. What's interesting now that you say that, it kind of jarred a little bit for me, where like when the kids were first born and I went to this book club that I always talk about, where we read
Yeah.
the Desire Map. And that was kind of my first dive into any sort of a self-help
Yeah.
book ever. But I remember reading that and being in this group with all of these really amazing, amazing women speaking about their fears and about the things that they struggled with, and feeling this like false confidence. What's that Elizabeth Gilbert book that's about Big Magic? Her book, Big Magic, Creative Living Beyond Fear. It came out like 4 years ago. My sister-in-law gave it to me. She's probably listening to this episode right now. And I started to read it and I was like, oh, well, this isn't for me. I've never had fear creatively. I know. It's
I
funny.
remember when you told me you got it, and we were both like, we don't need that.
I mean, because
What assholes?
I know what an asshole I was, because it's so funny because the last, I feel like 2 years, especially the last 1 year, has been completely dealing with creative fear.
Yeah.
That I just never thought I had. Or I would be in that group I was talking about, the book club, listening to these women struggle with things. And I would be like, wow, I've really always been so fearless and like just never had a problem jumping out the window or trying new things. But then like I've really had to face that head on at the end of this decade. And it's been but like why was I so confident?
Well, we don't have a problem. I mean, we're entrepreneurs. Like, we don't have a problem. And we are, the nature of our pursuits, being theater majors and being performers our whole lives, warrants a certain amount of like ridiculous risk and like naivete and ability to step into the unknown like on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
So that's in us. So I think to a certain degree, you're right. And I think we've both kind of felt like, well, this is just what we do, and that's
sure.
this
But
is
who
just who we
doesn't
are.
like? Who just looks at something and is like, well, I don't have that problem.
Assholes. Like that's. I feel like I was like, and that's what I'm saying. Like I was so. I spent the first half of that, the first three quarters of this last decade thinking everything was fine.
Right.
Like thinking my shit didn't stink. I think.
Yeah.
Like really, and it's not even that I was arrogant. It was like I was unawake. I was just sort of going through the motions. And I remember right around when I turned 40, which is almost 4 years ago now, I remember asking myself, like, what do I want my 40s to be? Like, what does that mean? And I was like, I missed me. I missed that creative part of me. I missed the brain that I used that didn't just think about business in my house, or like by my house, like, gotta plant a new tree and gotta get new carpet. Like, just,
Let me ask you, was that about the time when you started bird watching?
I hate you. Yes. But that is what happens when you let your mind allow itself to like indulge itself in what makes you happy. And I love bird watching and I love my birds. You're an asshole. What is that?
As a bird, don't you
That is-
call? Is
I've
bird
never-
calling? Don't you call them too?
Shayna,
No calling?
can you imagine me trying to call a bird? Bird! Get over here, bird! You just made the dog very upset.
Oh, sorry, Chef.
That's so funny. I can't even whistle.
No, I can't whistle either.
Oh, I don't call.
So I guess so that's like an awakening, right? Like I feel like it's kind of coming from this place of, and what's interesting now, that was a jump in thought, but what's interesting now is that as I'm digging deeper and going back and kind of thinking about things I want to work on, so much of them have to do with things that I just never admitted I struggled with over the last 20 years.
Of course, for sure. Me too.
Yeah.
Because I never admitted anything, I don't think. Not really.
Well, yeah. And maybe it's that. It's like I'm finally admitting, like, I've always, it's funny, I've always said things like, well, I just wasn't pretty enough, or I just,
I'm
because,
too tall.
or because I had a boyfriend, I wasn't willing to give up that much of my time for my career, even though I was already performing four nights a week in New York, And the truth is, when I really boil down to it, and I can't believe I'm admitting this very deep, like hard stuff to admit, the truth is that I was lacking confidence in my actual work. That I was not ever, I had these excuses because I didn't feel like I was a good enough comic or a good, even though I was out there doing it, I never trusted in myself or got rid of that fear enough to take it to that level. And, obviously now this is essentially what we're doing, it all cultivated into, Band of Mothers, but it's, at the time I was like, it's not like I was really happy with my life. I was,
too.
Doing all these creative, fun things, but I just never really stopped to focus on what I could have tweaked or changed that may have made it different.
And I'm the same way in a different scenario. I think, I was the same way. Like, I had, you and I've talked about this, that one of my things that I've realized is that in my acting days in LA, I always said, well, I had a boyfriend and a husband. I was married very young. I felt very obligated to be a very good wife.
Because of your upbringing.
Because of my upbringing, and that putting more emphasis on my career, almost at any cost, is somehow devaluing who I am as a woman and my responsibilities as a wife, that I would be ignoring my husband somehow, when my husband never put that pressure on me. That was all me. That was sort of always programming in the back of my brain. But the truth is, another thing that I learned in this past decade was vulnerability, which is an 8, is a very hard thing to like even wrap your brain around, let alone like employ.
And in case you're a new listener, she means the
Enneagram
8.
Yeah, excuse us. That's a few episodes back. You guys should listen to it. But my personality type isn't particularly naturally vulnerable as compared to like a 3, but
sure.
And the truth is that I just wasn't vulnerable on stage. There was a part of me that just never really let go. And I can do it in writing, but it's hard. It was hard for me to take down that wall that a good actor really needs to do and let people in. And I just was never willing to do it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even yesterday, I was doing a exercise, one of the Lacey Phillips exercises, and I had a realization that a lot of that fear that I'm talking about in my early career was this fear of not fitting in from my like early childhood that actually was rearing its ugly head in the clubs back in the day.
Well, gosh, yeah.
And even though I had an amazing group of friends and that I was creatively working with, when I would go and do some of these shows in these alt rooms and stuff with people like John Mulaney and Nick Kroll and Eugene Merman, and like, even though I was on the same shows as them, I always let that fear or that feeling that I wasn't fitting in there. And it's funny that like I literally recognized that yesterday during a meditation because of course that stops you. Of course that stops you from doing your best work or going out to the next show
Well, and this industry in particular, and I'm sure it can be transcribed into a bunch of other different vocations, just warrants itself to being accepted and constantly not feeling worthy or that you don't fit in. I mean, there's no actor on the planet that feels at peace.
Well, sure, because where's the next job coming from? But at the same time, like, how about celebrating the fact that I was brave enough to go do those shows with those people as an unknown, or even take risks like I did last week and felt like I totally failed and I'm still kicking myself. Like the fact that I kind of got up and did stand up again after all these years just to kind of like prove I could do it for myself. I shouldn't have left that experience being like, oh God, I don't even know how it went and what.
No,
I should have left it being like, well, it was just another cog in your creative wheel.
Because if I wrote a short story and submitted it and got declined, you wouldn't tell me that I was a failure. You'd be like, you fucking wrote a story and sent it in.
Yeah, but why didn't you get in, Tracey? It's like the B versus the A, right? Well, you did good, but no, I'm just kidding. I would never. Of course, I would never.
I know. So no one, that's all shit that you just put on yourself.
Yeah, right? Well, good to learn now at 42.
Well, at least we're learning.
I know. All right, we should do more questions because we could talk about the decade
Okay.
forever.
But do you see anything for this decade? I see something very clear for this decade.
Oh, shit. Tell me.
This is the decade that I retire.
Am I in it? Oh, really?
Yep. That's all. You're 100% in it. And by I mean we. Because obviously I don't do it without you.
God, this is the decade we pay off our student loans.
This is the decade we retire.
Okay. I like it.
And then we'll just do more great things. I'm excited.
Well, great. Someone asked us earlier about an exit strategy. So now we know.
You're like, well, Trace needs to retire in 9 years.
Apparently
so that's the exit.
It's okay. The decade doesn't start till next year.
Shut up. Literally makes me. I read a Facebook post about it and I was like, you can go to hell. Of all the things in life right now, Australia is burning.
Aww.
Like there's just our water. Like there's so many. There's chemtrails. You know, like can we just not worry about the decade? I don't care. Okay. Do you have any mom fails or low points in parenting you'd like to share from 2019?
Any particular instances?
Still regretting dropping the Santa Claus bomb.
Oh,
I'm just sad about, that just makes me sad. That's not really a mom fail. I don't know what I was supposed to do in that situation, but I felt bad about it. Or low points. Yeah. I mean, 2019 in particular, I mean, you and I have been working hard for many years. I look back on 2019 and all I fucking did was work.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that affected Evie. Mm-hmm. It made me cry.
You know, Courtney wrote me when we were in New York last week a text to encourage us. And she just said, look at the example that you're setting for your little girls. Mm. And we never think of it. You make me cry too.
Falling.
I know. We never think of it that way, but it's just a year. It's just, I know, we're doing it for them.
I know. It's hard when you know, there's just, it's hard to be a work at home mom because there is no delineation of start and stop. And we have a remote team, so we're dealing with time zones. Mm-hmm. And we own our own business, so there is no start and stop because there's just so much stuff that has to get done. And as proud as I am that we both are able to pick our kids up from school and drop them off at school, and you're teaching choir now, and we can volunteer and do all the things that we've been always wanted to do as moms. There's times at 4 p.m. when I'm on the phone or answering texts and have to say, I'm sorry, I got to sit down and do this email real quick. And that's just her standing there waiting for my attention, and it just sucks.
Or we snap at them or we're not our best selves.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's been a hard one to reconcile.
Yeah, for me, I feel like as our kids get older, especially my daughter, I don't know if you feel this with Evie at all, but I'm creeping into like my low points, or when I feel like I'm the worst mom, is when I watch myself get critical. It's really hard. It's something I'm going to have to work on this next decade, like hardcore, because whether it's the way that she wants to dress or the way that she reacts to things, or I just find myself, I come from it so hard. It's like now they're that age where you really have memories of being that age. And that has been an interesting evolution as well.
Yeah.
But I find myself not opening my heart in the way that it needs to be for a 7, 8, 9-year-old girl discovering herself. I find myself going into these old habits that either the way my mom was with me or the way that I am to myself. And I find myself being a little bit critical of her behavior, negative instead of positive off the bat on a lot of things. Yeah.
Really?
Well, it's just
it's a fine line. I know that you have concerns, as we all do, about our kids that you share with like me or your friends. I don't, obviously I'm not here when you're cooking dinner, but I don't see you being like that.
I don't say things to her that I feel are damaging her for life. I'm pretty careful about certain things, but I still like the face I make when she coughs without covering her mouth. It's
well,
I know, but I just am being hard on them now that they're older.
Well, I feel like I'm hard on Evie. It's so hard because it's a fine line between, well, it's weird. Okay, there's two things. So in the woo world, I started reading the 4 Agreements. I don't know how I feel about it yet. And I'm reading Eckhart Tolle. And, it's all about like, a lot of this is like, as a society, we just put these mores onto our children and we just like rape their innocence and their natural proclivity to be their own individuals. And we're like, no, you have to act like this because this is what society wants. And we like just ruin each other generation after generation. But if you don't do some of that to kids, they don't know how to behave it properly with other people. So it's like a fine line between stealing their spark and saying, hey, you got to cover your mouth when you cough.
Well, sure. But I find myself going to habits or the way I react. And then so I guess when I hear that question, I think about low points. Whenever I'm most critical of myself as a mom these days, it's when I've not been, just kind in my criticism. And it's something I will absolutely have to work on. I love that I'm only referring to my daughter because apparently my son can do nothing wrong.
Well, if I can be honest, you're not wrong.
But he'll get there, believe me.
No, but what is it? I only have one and I don't have a boy, but I have enough that have a boy and a girl, and the sons are idiots and they are just held up with this pedestal. And you just like, whatever they do that's stupid and irritating, you're like, that's so funny and they're so crazy and cute. And then the girl does it and you're like, what the fuck?
I know. I think it's because they're like little versions of you, these girls, And
oh,
so
for sure. Well, and I figured that out with Evie when she was so young, even a baby. It's like girls and moms can look at each other in the eyes and you just know each other on a level that is amazing and beautiful. But at that same point, it's like, girl, I know exactly what you're doing. I know exactly what's going on in your brain, and don't try it,
Yeah.
And it's hard because they are so wonderful. So when they see, when you see them not being their best, whatever that means.
Yeah, but it's like when I see her, when I'm like, oh, you didn't wash your hair well enough. It's super greasy. This is gross.
Oh, I see.
That's like not nice.
Okay, yeah, that's
She's
not very
9,
nice.
And but I'm frustrated because she should know how to wash her hair at 9. But like, what am I doing? How is that helping?
No, and I get that more when she doesn't try. Her not trying is like my big thing.
Yeah, that's like sure.
And I'm just like, you're not trying, and I know, and then she doesn't, because she's 9, can't enunciate that she just doesn't understand and just needs a little clarification. And I'm just like, if you know, and that's where
Yeah.
she and I really butt heads.
Yeah.
Which isn't nice either.
Well,
Okay.
okay. At
well.
least we admit it. Get back. We can work on that.
Oh, I gotta get off my phone after I pick her up.
Oh,
I gotta
that's
work on
another
that.
good goal for sure.
Work-life balance. Okay. On a lighter note, maybe. What was your favorite book of 2019?
Oh, gosh. Remember my New Year's resolution in 2019
You read
was,
books.
yeah. And then I got to like March and
No, you did really good.
at the beginning
Well,
and I
okay.
stopped. I would say the book that changed our life, which is You're a Badass at Making Money, Jen Sincero, was the most affecting book that I've probably ever read. But what that book did is lead us to softer other ways of kind of manifesting good things. But it definitely was an introduction into you can change your life. So that was really powerful. And then Educated was another book
you
that
and
was
Johnny read that. You loved that.
That was so good and kind of helped me find my love for fiction again, which I just hadn't read a book in a long time just because I, between parenting and work and this and that. And so now I go between fiction and work books.
It's hard when you have a work wife and a husband and then they're friends and they read the same thing. So like you both read Educated and I just felt like I didn't need to read it because you both just talked about it so much. I was like, I didn't need to read it. I would say the book that I loved You're a Badass at Making Money. I will say, having stepped away from it, I felt like there's some holes that I don't necessarily agree with, but I really enjoyed reading it.
It was like the gate.
It was a total gateway. But for me, the most transformative book of 2019 was the Enneagram book.
Which one? Which one of the 55 that you've read?
The Wisdom of the Enneagram. Thank God.
Oh, okay.
We'll post it. It's kind of like the main primer. It's written by two guys, Rios, I can't remember, but anyway, that's what shifted everything for me. That was my massive gateway.
So that's an interesting here's an interesting question. I'll comment on my own question before I ask it. So I feel like the work that we've been doing, like in subconscious reprogramming and manifestation and all that stuff, is really different than the Enneagram work, but they're related in the sense that it's all self-awareness, right? But I feel like they're very different. And I don't think I've gotten into the Enneagram even remotely as much as you have.
No.
But that's because I'm not as clear of a 3 as you are as clear of an 8. And we're using it now for work. Like we're having our whole team do it, which I think is great. And I can totally see all the benefits of that. But I feel like for this work this like self-care, #self-care work.
Please don't. You may be doing self-care work,
everything.
but I'm not doing self-care work.
For these deep dives that we've kind of been doing that have been like making space for all the good things, I feel like it's very unrelated to Enneagram work.
Oh, I don't agree at all.
So that's what I wanted to
Well,
ask
did you read? You didn't even read the whole book, did you?
Which one?
Wisdom of the Enneagram.
Yeah.
You read the beginning and the end, and you didn't have to read all the like type chapters, but you read the whole beginning.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of the Enneagram is that we are all born with this sort of core personality profile. Well, first of all, the whole point of the Enneagram is that we are all of the numbers eventually. Like we all have all of the traits. Not any one person is just like I'm not just an 8. I'm mostly an 8. But I think it's very related because the bulk of my 8-ness is what they call the cast that you put over your body, which is the instinctual ways you act in order to protect yourself and your feelings, which come from how you were raised, trauma, all of those things, which is exactly what reparenting and neuroplasticity, it all comes from our childhood, and the Enneagram is no different. What it does is it just gives you a very specific outline of personality traits, and you at your best and you at your worst, so that you're aware of it, so that you can counteract it when you go to those dark places, it's like a tool to allow yourself to dig yourself back out of what your natural proclivity is. Where I feel like reprogramming neuroplasticity is a little bit more broad, you know? So we had talked about this. Like, I find it actually helps with the Enneagram a lot because it makes me really understand why I'm an 8. And why
Even
I
though-
act the way I do.
Well, but essentially you're born an 8.
Yeah.
So for me, when we're going back and doing like the subconscious work and you're kind of going back to these programs, you're programming from those ages, it has to do with community and parenting and caregivers and life experience that have programmed these things deep down inside you. And the Enneagram is like,
I don't
it's personality.
Well, I don't think you're born an 8. I don't think you're born a type.
That's what our expert said when
Did
she was
she?
here. She's very clear.
She was?
Maybe
Okay.
that's just one theory with Enneagram, but it's an interesting question.
Well, even if you are, we're all born, I'm born left-handed. Like, you're born with things. You're born gay, you know, like you're born with a bunch of different traits. So I don't guess I don't really have a problem with it. I think but I think you step into your type based on how you were raised and what happens in your childhood.
And you're unhealthy.
Yeah. Well, and just like there's like, if you read the book and you find your type, that always tells you like in childhood you were this, and there's always like this defining moment where it's like, it's kind of like you click into like how you react in a situation, then sort of defines truly what that number is for you.
Right.
I don't know. I think they're very complementary.
Well, I certainly think they're complementary, but I wanted to discuss the difference because it is interesting.
Yeah.
What was the question?
Favorite book?
Oh, okay. Let's move on.
How did you grow as a mom in 2019?
Oh, how did I?
It's a good question, Shay. We never talk about how we've grown. We always talk about how we fail. Okay, I'll answer. I think this comes with the work, but I feel like I have against my natural ways. I feel like my daughter has always been has asked a lot of questions, has asked a lot of hard questions, asks a lot of blunt questions. And I feel like the old me would want to just sweep it under the rug and not address things that maybe feel uncomfortable for her age. And I feel like when I know she's really thinking about something and really wants to talk, I feel like I've really worked hard that's the one time I do put my stuff down and I like sit down and we like really talk about things. And I feel like that was something that I consciously worked on to just answer her questions, and when she's curious, to help guide her through life when she really wants to talk about something.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, that is good.
I feel like this isn't as much as an action of parenting as it is dealing with my own guilt and like how hard I am on myself about parenting. I feel like in 2019, maybe because we were so goddamn busy, I just felt like I had to accept who I was as a mom in a lot of ways. So, outside of like, when I'm hard on myself about being critical, which I rightfully should be hard on myself about that. I need to be better about that. I think I, accepted that, I may not be the mom who reads for 2 hours every night with her kids because we just make them go in their rooms and read themselves. But I will always be, I'm like the snuggliest mom. I'm the, I have great qualities that my kids can always depend on me for. And sometimes that's enough. Like trying to be this every mom or trying to be. Yeah. And so in 2019, like we said, there wasn't a lot of school participation. We actually did less sports and other activities than we had the year before. And And thank God there wasn't time. I wasn't that mom last year. I'm
Yeah.
hoping to be more of that mom this year, but I think kind of letting go of that stuff and those expectations and just trusting that like our conversations, the times that we laugh, the dinners, the what I can give is what I can give and that it's enough. And I
Yeah.
think it's so funny. We go around the country trying to tell moms they're doing a good job all the time. And then we just
Sit and weep.
sit and weep, right? Because we're
Yeah.
struggling just like everyone
Yeah.
else. But I do think I grew in that sense.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I probably did too. I mean, you know how important it is for me to have like a hot meal on the dinner table.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say for the last 8 months, it just didn't happen.
Every night, right?
Yeah. But even like, several nights a week, I was like, okay, what grub cup can I just can't,
Yeah.
I can't cook. There's
Yeah.
literally, not only can I not cook, I can't even do the dishes. Like I
Mhm.
can't, there's no time. And that was a big, like, I just had to accept it
Mm-hmm.
that this was the way it is, which was hard.
Letting go and realizing that your kids, what we say at the Pump and Dump show,
They don't care.
they love you
They do.
with or without makeup, with or without that dinner. They probably love you more when you order Chipotle.
Sure. If my kid could just eat Chipotle.
Oh my God. Georgia comes up to me in the middle of choir, 42 kids in the choir, which is so chaotic and crazy. And she like comes up and she's like, tonight, can we have chip? I'm like, what? What are you saying? What is this? Why are you saying this to me right now? I thought maybe since you saw me talking, you might have been upset with me and that we weren't going to have chip. I'm like,
Who came up with chip?
Georgia May. I don't know. So weird.
It's so funny. We both have Chipotle nights, and so we were trying to schedule. We're really busy this week, Kel Surprise, and we were trying to schedule a couple calls. And Thursdays are hard for me because I have pickup, and then Evie has ballet at 5:15. But because she is like 10 feet tall like me and growing an inch every day, she eats 2 dinners that day because she eats dinner before ballet and then dinner after ballet. So what we do is get chip. On the way home from school.
So weird.
And it's her favorite day of the week is to
I
get
know.
Chipotle.
There's because Chris plays basketball on Tuesday nights,
Yeah.
so it's Chipotle night.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, there's worse things to eat. I love Chipotle.
Sure.
Do we answer the question? How do we grow?
Oh yeah, we did.
Okay, we grew. That's nice to know. Oh, do you have any New Year's resolutions?
Or New Year's revolutions, as my kids call it.
Revolutions.
Yeah, go ahead. You share yours.
Oh, mine. I resolved to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Have you been doing it? I meant to ask
Well,
you.
yeah, except for today and yesterday because we just got back from New York where we didn't sleep. But yeah, I have been doing it and it's been awesome. I thought originally I was going to do it to get on my Peloton. Do you guys know I have a Peloton? But the truth is
I'm surprised you didn't say to clip in.
The truth is that as quiet as the bike is while it's on, you yourself are not very quiet at all. And like in clipping in, it's actually really loud. It's like, chukung, chukung. And our Peloton is in our bedroom. And I thought, I'll just wake up at 5 and I'll just get on the Peloton. But like it would wake up the whole house. And then the grunting and the like, when you're like out of the saddle, like doing the hard hills or if you're like listening to, if you're doing one with Allie Love and she just makes you weep and it's like you're going to church. So I just can't weep and cry at 5 a.m. So I am not clipping in at 5, but I've been either getting ahead of work, which has actually been very helpful because I wanted to be more present even just during breakfast and not be answering. So that's mine.
Wow.
I think I have others, but that's like my main one. It seems nominal, but
Yeah.
5 o'clock comes real fast.
Yeah. My biggest resolution right now is kind of work related in the sense that I because of the Enneagram and because of this great woo-woo stuff, I've become all too aware that I react far too quickly to things, especially when it's work related. And it's generally not as big of a deal as I'm making it in my body and in my head the second it happens. So I am trying to like count to 10, take deep breaths, take a minute and like respond instead of react. And that is like going to be my theme, I think, especially as in a leadership position with our team and everything. Like I just really, really I don't want our team to fear me I feel like I could probably be scary in that sense. Like, oh, she's going to blow. So yeah, I think that's in parenting, right? So like same thing. Cause
amazing.
I can be so quick to just react. I'm a yeller. My kids are so used to me yelling. They don't even react. So yeah, I'm really want to work on that this year. That is a big goal of mine because I feel like it's all part of like being self-aware.
I love that.
But I'll never get up at 5 a.m. Nor I also don't have a Peloton, but keeps coming across my feed.
The other one, and this is back to the Enneagram, there's all these great Instagram handles that we both follow, and I think it's Enneagram and Coffee. It's like the big one. You guys should follow them. We'll put them at the show notes. Did a a resolution for each type, and for number 8s, it was to soften, which is epically big for me. It's like, and I have. Like I tell myself that a couple times a day, like to soften, because that's a real hard thing for me to do.
That's a good word. That's a good
word. Don't you think it's good for me? I don't think anyone identifies me as soft, except for maybe my stomach, which I guarantee you one person does, which is Evie, because she constantly tells me I'm softer than a pillow, which I take as a loving compliment and not a complete failure of my body.
Oh my gosh.
And my boobs. I mean, there's a lot going on in this area, that quadrant.
Oh, you know what's funny is so Kalani, our digital manager, is on Pelotoning constantly, and we're both 3s, and the 3 in me, just by watching Kalani do these challenges that she's been posting about, I'm just like. I'm like I want to get one only to compete with Kalani, which is exactly why we're both 3s.
Yeah. I mean, you would
like exactly.
The Peloton was made for 3s.
I mean, I'm kind of like I just need to be doing a 100-mile challenge also.
I know.
Which is like I'm a crazy person.
You're so competitive.
But I'm not a good bike person. I guess I could try it.
Honey, if I'm not a good bike person, no one's a good bike person.
Lots of people are good bike people.
It's not about that. It's just the cardio. Yeah. You can get the get the treadmill.
Ugh. Where am I going to put that in this office?
All right. What was a major highlight of 2019 in family and in work? Highlight.
Like a moment? Like a Momo?
Yeah, just something that... Why does it always make me mad when you say Momo?
Oh my God, I love saying it.
I love hearing it, but then it's like it's so wrong.
It's like a Momo.
Stop it. Stop.
All right.
Highlights. Just some highlights.
One in family and one in
work.
Definitely there were some moments when we saw our cast perform. When our casts perform, I think probably one moment in each city. Maybe it was it the LA show, because we had done the Chicago rehearsals first. So when we did the LA show, and it was kind of like,
you mean in rehearsals?
In rehearsal, when they ran it for us before their dress. And I think because we had already been through Chicago and we still were nervous to then rehearse a whole other cast, it was like when they got to the end of that show. Remember that? And we're standing up for the Band of Mothers song. And I think
you're
you
like
and I
shaking and crying.
I mean, I think it just hit me that we had done it.
Yeah.
And that was like a really, really big highlight moment because we had kind of just made it through.
Yeah.
And they were great.
Yeah.
And we knew that what we were doing was working.
Yeah.
And that was a big, like when I think of that whole process, I think of that. That was probably a big highlight for us. And then I think of myself just crying on the floor of all the other fears and craziness from 2019.
Okay, well, we're focusing on highlights.
Yeah, it's just fun to look at the highs and the lows.
I mean, we did a lot of crying last year. Maybe I have tapped into that vulnerability because I feel like all I did was lie in bed and cry.
Well, it was I said to my mom on the phone one day, like, this has been the biggest roller coaster career-wise in the amount of stress. And then the celebrations.
Yeah.
It's like you have these high highs.
Cry, and we happy cry. We were crying in the cab so bad that the cab driver was like, "Are you okay?"
Oh yeah, we cried in the cab on the way to the airport. And then Tracey goes, "He's the most empathic cab driver we've ever had because he just kept like
He
trying to
asked
help
us
us.
several- yeah, he did. Anyway, so yeah, so okay, so for you it was
That was a work
watching.
highlight.
Yeah, that's your work highlight. What was your family highlight?
Oh gosh, there's so many.
I
You
know.
know, there's just those moments. Like I think it's just all practicing gratitude, right? You
Mhm.
know, just looking at your kids. You know, I'm fortunate enough to have two, and so I can kind of observe from the outside their relationship and
Mm.
how kind and loving they are to each other, and that
They're
always
crazy
makes me
about each
so
other.
proud. Yeah, I just
You should be proud. That's a parenting thing to make them be
Oh.
in love.
well, I've definitely
That's
forced
great.
forced it. Um, yeah, and then just really trying to celebrate our motherfuckers helping us through this crazy year because they've been so patient and
Mhm.
so supportive, and I think because of the work we've been doing, I finally had a conversation when we were kind of at one of our big deltas in
Mhm.
our career, and we were conquering our own fears as a business, and you and I and our relationship and everything, and I finally just sat down with Chris and I was like, I feel like you're worried and I take that on.
Mhm.
And having that conversation and hearing him say that he's not, I just needed to hear that, but he didn't know I needed to hear that.
Mm.
And I was projecting my fears on him being fearful, but he's not worried. He's like,
Yeah.
you're the smartest person I know.
Mm.
This is great. And it was
Mhm.
and everything kind of changed that day,
Mm. That's cool.
getting through this crazy
Yeah.
mess. You?
I would say work highlight similar to you, but for me it was when we cast those 4 amazing women. Like, we went to Chicago first, and I remember on the airplane thinking to myself, this is either the worst idea we've ever had in our life, or it's going to be abundantly clear that this is totally going to work. And I just knew it was going to be one or the other. There is no middle ground when you're doing this, what we were trying to do. And when when we saw Molly and Angela together, I literally saw sparks.
Oh yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah,
like,
that
it was
felt really
like,
good.
I was just like, oh my gosh, like there it is. Like it happened. It's there. It's right there.
Even Joan started crying, the casting director.
Yeah, it was so magical. And it was so amazing. And I just knew. And I remember sitting in the cab, a lot of crying in the cab this year. Was sitting in the cab texting their headshots to my husband, to my
Mhm.
family that was waiting like on a text thread, like with bated breath to see how it
Mhm.
went, to our agent, and being so proud to send their photos around like these are the first 2. And then we went to LA and the exact same thing happened, and just seeing Amy and Jilly up there and just being like, who are these women? Like, it was like, and leaving, we drank a lot of tequila in 2019 too. And like, I think after both casting sessions, we went and got a drink. And I just remember sitting there thinking like, oh my God, we got it. Like, we got it. And that was like a real highlight. And family. Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is that we just like, I've talked about it. We just decided we needed to shift schools. And then we ended up figuring out that the only school we really liked was a private school. And then we just did it. And that was like the highlight, was seeing how happy she is now.
Yeah, like when she found out she got in and how proud she was. And
Why am I so crying today? We're so
It's-
tired.
It's the Band of Mothers podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
to see that.
Well,
her.
so much more to come. This podcast is going to evolve as well as we're learning and growing. And, I think a big goal for us in 2020 with this podcast is to soften, show you a little bit more about us, which is why we wanted to start this year like this. Really focus on guests that teach us things. I think if you've all ever listened before, you know that we approach every subject wide-eyed.
Yeah, like, please explain.
Please explain.
Yeah.
And so let's all learn together. We're moms, but we were women first, and that's why we're here. So
Yeah.
happy 2020. Happy Chinese New Year.